Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. And any West Ham fans, if there is one or two that tune into this, first thing as always, I hope everyone's well. You never guess what I've just done. I recorded this whole video and I thought I'm just going to spend a couple hours editing it and just making it all nice, beautiful for you guys. So I downloaded the video. Guess what I forgot to do? Turn me bloody mic on. So I am going to have to record it all, which I don't mind. But Eddie Howe has been speaking to the media this morning. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to preview West Ham. We're going to look at West Ham as a club, why they've probably had a bad season so far, what we're going to expect from West Ham. And then we're going to talk about how we can capitalise on their weaknesses. And then we're going to predict a starting 11. But the difference going into this game, probably from the beginning of the season, and the difference between Newcastle United and West Ham right now, Newcastle are probably looking forward to every single game, whereas West Ham probably don't want the games to come. They're probably waiting out for the international break because they've only won one of their games this season in all competitions. And Newcastle come into this game in great form, only one lost in our last 6 games, and we've won the other 5. So let's talk about what Eddie Howe has had to say. He said, this is a big game for us as we go towards the next international break. These next 2 games are huge. Obviously, he's talking about West Ham away and then Brentford away in the Premier League. But between those 2 games, we've actually got a Champions League game as well. So these games are coming thick and fast. It feels weird because I dropped my reaction video to Tottenham midweek yesterday, and I'm already doing a preview video. So every couple of days, there's a reaction video, there's a preview video, and the games are coming thick and fast. But when you're in good form, you ask any player, they want to play as many games as possible because the confidence is high and the belief, the vibrancy is just running through the squad. And you can feel that at Newcastle United at the minute. Think back to the beginning of the season, times were a little bit tougher, should I just say. But now we look free-flowing, we look good, we look dominant, controlling, good defensively. And with Nick Valdemada, you know you've always got a chance of scoring. He actually spoke about the team news heading into this game. He said, no fresh injuries. We are still managing William Masula's ankle. We will see how he is today. Apart from that, we are as we were. Hopefully, Lewis Hall will be training with us today. We will see how he looks. He's looked after himself, looks in good shape, but we will have to reintroduce him at the right time. That is music to Mango's and probably your ears, because I think I speak for everybody here. We don't think Dan Burn is a left back. So the sooner Lewis Hall comes and is back, fit, healthy, and playing, the better. But I don't want to rush him. I don't think he will make an appearance. He might be on the bench, but I don't think he's going to make an appearance. I think we'll probably more likely expect to see Lewis Hall in the Champions League midweek. But it's just a beautiful feeling that we're starting to get a squad to pick from. The sooner Tino Livramento and Johan Wissa are back, the better. But he actually spoke about West Ham and going into this game. Look, I'm going to talk about West Ham in this video because West Ham are going through a bad moment at the time. Let's not even beat around the bush. On the field, off the field, they're going through a bad moment. So if there is some West Ham fans watching this video, please let me know in the comments whether I'm right, wrong, and how you feel about the club at the minute. Let's not forget, Newcastle United were in the same position that West Ham are at the moment under Mike Ashley. So we're going to be talking about that in this episode. But Eddie Howe is a man that is very respectful. And I think he was very respectful towards West Ham. He didn't speak about their record, didn't speak about them being at the bottom of the league. All he said was they have a very good group of players, especially in the attacking areas. We are going to have our work cut out to limit the space for their attacking talent. Our away form has not been strong enough, and we want to put that right in this game. Let's be honest about it. Our away form has not been strong enough. We speak about West Ham. They haven't won a home game all season, but Newcastle United haven't won an away game all season. We've only scored 2 goals away from home. Yes, we've only conceded 1, but we've got to score goals to win games. And there's no better opportunity than going up against a team that hasn't won a home game all season to get your first away victory. And I actually agree with Eddie Howe about West Ham. They're going through a bad time at the moment. They've obviously had the change of manager and it hasn't quite clicked under Nuno yet. But I do think over time, he will make them more defensively better and get them winning games. Now, let's speak about West Ham at the moment, because I'm going to be honest, I actually feel sorry for West Ham as a club and their fans. West Ham are a club that I have so much admiration for. They're a huge club with bags of potential. But let's not forget, Newcastle were in a similar place not that long ago under Mike Ashley. And everything I say in this video is out of love towards West Ham. It might sound like I'm throwing shade towards them, but I'm not. I'm just trying to be brutally honest on where they are at the moment and what I think from the outside looking in is went wrong. Us Newcastle fans know exactly how West Ham fans feel. We wanted Mike Ashley out. We were protesting, praying to God that would have investment in a takeover. We got lucky. We did. The Saudis come in, and everything since then has been on an upward trajectory. But before then, I remember looking at West Ham and watching them lift the Europa Conference League and thinking, I want that to be Newcastle. Don't forget, the season before they lift the Europa Conference League, to win the Europa League. And I used to sit there and think, I want us to be like West Ham. But now the times have flipped. West Ham are probably sitting there thinking, we want to be like Newcastle. So it just goes to show in such little time in football, a lot can change. But West Ham winning that Europa Conference League should have been the platform for their success, their happiness, their ability to compete for European places week in, season out, but it just hasn't felt that way. And let's not forget, Europa Conference League victory is an enormous achievement. Winning the Europa Conference League to West Ham is like their Champions League. It was an unbelievable achievement, and I want Newcastle United. I would love Newcastle United to win the Europa Conference League. I know you're sitting there thinking, well, we're in the Champions League, blah, blah, blah. But I want to win trophies, regardless of what European competition it is. So I used to look at West Ham and think, I envy them. I want to be like them. I want Newcastle to get into Europe, to get into these places. We are now, but at the time we weren't. Now, I thought that was going to be the platform of their success, but it's just went the opposite way. Now, you can sit here and say, oh, well, they should have kept David Moyes. Let's be brutally honest about it. I'm not the type of person to tell people how to feel about their football club. We didn't watch West Ham week in, week out. We didn't listen to every single interview with David Moyes. So if West Ham fans believed that the right decision at that time was to let David Moyes go, that's their prerogative. Who are we to tell them? Do you know what I mean? Who am I to tell them that they're supporting their club in the wrong way? That's how they felt in that moment. They're incredibly entitled to feel that way. So West Ham have planned another protest, but they've planned it differently to the previous one. Previous one was all about a boycott, but the thing about boycotts and football clubs doesn't really work because fans are so passionate they want to support their team. So I actually think the way they're going to do it at Newcastle United when we go to their place, it's actually quite genius. So they're going to come support their team, then they're going to stay in the stadium so their voice gets heard. And I've got a funny feeling the broadcasters, media, Sky Sports, TNT will absolutely lap that up. That is content for them. If their West Ham fans are staying after the game, refusing to leave just to voice their opinion, Sky Sports, the media will be lapping that up. And that's exactly what West Ham fans want. They want the media talking about it. But from the outside looking in, I know selling the football club takes a lot of time. It's not just something simple where you can say, right, it's on the market, you buy it, within the next couple of months, it's going to happen. So I also feel like a short-term solution until you get the long-term solution. And the short-term solution for me, and one of the biggest problems at West Ham at the minute, is having no footballing people at board level. They've got business people making football decisions, and I think that's taken away the identity, the soul of West Ham. So I can only imagine how their fans feel, and I think that's one of the biggest problems, and it's impacting the pitch. They need a proper director of football, somebody that understands football, somebody understands how to build a culture, build an identity, because West Ham, I used to hate going away to West Ham. Upton Park, I used to absolutely hate it because it was always going to be a tough game and always going to be a battle. And judging by this season, West Ham's home performance, they got beat 5-0 off Chelsea, they got beat 3-0 off Tottenham, they got beat 2-0 off Brentford, they got beat 2-1 off Crystal Palace. They've scored 1 goal at home all season in the Premier League. It's just simply not good enough or acceptable for a club like West Ham. And I'm not even a West Ham fan. And it frustrates me because you can't have business people and non-football people trying to profile a squad together. It's actually a unique characteristic somebody has. But one thing I will say, the West Ham squad is far better than the league table suggests. So Newcastle United can't go to there and be complacent thinking this is going to be easy. West Ham have only won 1 game all season. So we'll go there, we'll turn them over because our away record it's not been great, so something's got to give, unless it's a draw, of course. But West Ham have not won a home game. We've not won an away game, but we're going into this game in better form. And I actually think West Ham made some very good signings in the summer. Matheus Fernandes, I love him. Magassa's a good signing. Malik Diouf's a good signing. These are all players that I've followed since youth level. What I tend to do in football, right? So this is why I watched a lot of West Ham and Southampton last season, for example. When I find a player that I like at youth level, I watch his career for good or bad. So I've watched a lot of West Ham this season because I've followed Magassa, I've followed Matthias Fernandes. Even before West Ham signed Magassa, I did a YouTube video on him. So these are players that I've watched and followed for a long time, and these aren't bad players. But I think the trouble for these players, I think Malik Diouf has shown his ability, but the trouble for players like Magassa, Matthias Fernandes, when you're coming into a team without a structure, without any consistency in formation or style of play, and you're going into a team that's low on confidence, it's very difficult to find your rhythm. It's very difficult to build those connections on the pitch. And I think that's what West Ham are struggling with, because these players are inexperienced themselves. When you're going into a non-confident dressing room, it's incredibly difficult to find any rhythm or find your feet at a new club. It takes that little bit longer. Let's start by looking at our last 6 games against West Ham, both home and away. West Ham have only beaten Newcastle once in the last 6 games, so we've actually got a good record against West Ham. We drew 1-1, and then we went to their place, beat them 5-1. We drew 2-2, and then at St. James's Park, we had a thriller where it was a 4-3. And then the only game West Ham have beat us was at St. James's Park last season. And I'm sure that was a Monday night, if I remember correctly. But again, West Ham weren't on a good run at that time either, but they still came to St. James's Park and took all 3 points. So this is what I'm saying. Every game in the Premier League is difficult. If we go into this game just expecting to turn West Ham over, that's when you lose games. This is how the league table stands right now. Newcastle in 12th on 12 points. West Ham sitting in 19th with 1 loss, 1 win and 7 defeats. Let's also have a look at some statistics this season. When it comes to shot creating actions, Newcastle sit 5th in the Premier League with 204, whereas West Ham sit 19th with 145. So West Ham are struggling to create opportunities. Now, if we move it on to XG, so the quality of the opportunity, Newcastle United sit 10th, bang in the middle of the Premier League, sitting on 11.9. So they should have scored 12 goals this season. West Ham currently sit 18th with 7.6. So they are struggling to create opportunities, create good opportunities. But even defensively, they haven't been great reading. Let's be perfectly honest with it. Because when it comes to XG against, Newcastle United defensively have been absolutely excellent this season. They have the second best defensive record, only behind Arsenal. Whereas West Ham have the second worst defensive record, only behind Burnley. So what I'm trying to say, what those statistics show is West Ham don't really threaten very much, but they also give you a high level of quality chances. Now, we all know West Ham sacked Graham Potter, brought in Nuno. Nuno's been in charge of 4 games, and this is how it went. Obviously, he had that first game away to Everton, and the game finished 0-0, so he picked up a point for them. But since then, they've been beaten 2-0 away at Arsenal, got beat 2-0 at home to Brentford, then got beat 2-1 away to Leeds. Now, I watched those final 2 games, Brentford and Leeds. Against Brentford, that was awful. I can't even lie. Sometimes you watch teams and they're sitting in the bottom of the Premier League and you think they're failing forwards. What I mean by that is you see signs that eventually it can click. You see signs that they're too good to be bottom of the league. But when it comes to West Ham, just the whole chemistry of the team, the physicality of the team, the athleticism of the team just got run over by Brentford. And that's me being brutally honest. Against Leeds, it was a bit better. That the opening spell against Leeds, where the opening 15 minutes are conceded 2 goals, and you're thinking, not again for West Ham. But they managed to get themselves back in the game, and that was a good sign. So hopefully they can bring that second half performance against Leeds into Newcastle United. That's probably what Nuno's looking for. But let's talk about a little what Nuno is trying to bring to West Ham. We all know Nuno's style of play is built around low possession, counter-attacking approach, emphasis on direct attacks with speed and compact defensive shape to limit opponent's space. Now, one thing I've noticed with West Ham is Nuno's been extremely experimental, but it's been underwhelming. Nothing's worked yet. He's tried a strikerless formation. He's tried defensive reshuffles. He's tried tactical inconsistencies. And for my liking, I like Nuno, but he's trying to reshuffle the pack far too often. When you're sitting at the Premier League like this, the one thing players want is consistency in performance, systems, because that's when you can start building the rhythm. You can start building those patterns of play. But when the personnel changes so much and the system and the formation changes so much, players get confused. They don't know whether they're coming, they're going, and the West Ham just need a little bit of consistency on the pitch, in my opinion. At Wolves, he was known for his 5 in the back, whereas at Forest, he was known for his 4-2-3-1 formation. Now, at West Ham, he has changed his formation frequently. He's tried a 5 at the back. He's tried a 4 at the back. So I just don't expect what he's going to do against Newcastle United. One thing I will say, and I'm going to tell you what I would do in Nuno's position, is we all know Newcastle United are very dominant in the middle of the pitch. You look at our 3 midfielders, even if we take Joe Linton out and bring up Jacob Ramsey or Lewis Miley, it's still a very balanced midfield. And if I'm Nuno, I'm looking at that thinking, if I play 5 at the back, the best formation against the 5 at the back is a 4-3-3. So that'll just play into Newcastle United hands. I hope he plays at 5 at the back. But if I'm Nuno, what I would do is I would say play a 4-3-3. Let's meet Newcastle United man for man. Now, West Ham don't have physicality to get around the pitch. So what I would be saying if I'm Nuno, you win your individual battles. I want you to go man for every single player. And if we can't play them off the park footballing wise, let's try and win our individual battles, because that can help towards winning this game and stopping Newcastle United getting into any flow. And West Ham fans, if you are watching this, you can tell us if I'm right or wrong, because I'm not perfect. I'm wrong quite often. But I just don't understand Nuno's player selection. I don't understand Lucas Paquetá playing up front. I don't understand playing your right back and left back and left back and right back, because when you do that, you're giving the wingers the advantage. And I'll tell you exactly why soon, but the experiments that Nuno's done is just confused us a little bit. Like, I don't understand switching the fullbacks. I don't understand Lucas Paquetá playing as a centre forward, because I don't feel like you get the best out of him. I don't understand Matheus Fernandes not starting, because he's probably the only one in the middle of the pitch that's got a bit of legs. If Nuno wants to compact the midfield, play that 4-3-3 system. So he's been playing Lucas Paquetá up front despite having Callum Wilson or Callum Marshall available. Now, Callum Marshall's just a young lad, so I'm speaking more towards Callum Wilson, because, look, Callum Wilson is somebody that, is he going to light up the world and be the next Erling Haaland? No. He's old now. He's not getting any younger. But is he very experienced? And did he do a very good job at Newcastle United considering the circumstances? Absolutely. I'd be looking at that thinking, Callum Wilson can score goals. When you're in bad form, you want a striker that can just sniff a goal out of somewhere. Lucas Paquetá is not a natural striker, so you're not going to get those striker instincts inside the box, being in the right place at the right time. Whereas Callum Wilson can give you that. Now, again, I'm not sitting here saying he's a solution. I just don't understand the team selections. And one thing I always say, if you want to be successful as a club, you need a set back 4. You can make 1 or 2 changes in the back 4, but against Brentford, Nuno made 3, and then he changed it at half time. He took 3 players off. So just that defensive stability just isn't there for West Ham at the minute. Now, again, I'm not saying this is going to be an easy game, because I genuinely believe there's no easy games in football. Look at Wolves. Wolves came to St. James's Park and we just managed to get a victory 1-0 when it was Nick Valdemada's first start. So there's no easy game in the Premier League. But let's have a look at what Nuno wants to bring to West Ham, because if you're going off what he did at Wolves in Forest, at Wolves he predominantly played with a back 5. At Forest he predominantly played with a back 4. But the style always remained the same. Low possession, counter-attacking. He typically likes to concede possession, sit deep and wait to counter-attack. Now, he also likes to have a compact defence. The team is trained to block space, narrow the pitch defensively, making it difficult for the opposition to play through the middle. Now, he also has a big emphasis on transitions. The style is designed to make the most of situations where the team can attack space quickly. This suits players who excel in transitions. This is exactly why Anthony Elanga was electric under Nuno at Nottingham Forest, because his profile is so good for transition moments. His profile is so devastating when there's space in front of him. So I absolutely expect Nuno to concede possession, but it's about Newcastle United, what they do with that possession. So how can we break down West Ham and get them and exploit their weaknesses? First of all, athleticism. West Ham lack legs, energy all over the pitch. So we need plenty of movement, runners off the ball, moving the ball quickly, and energy all over the pitch, because it causes West Ham so many problems. We've seen it time and time again this season. We're full of energy. It's like we eat 2 bowls of Weetabix in the morning, and Sandro Tonali's face is just going like this every game, because his batteries never ever run out. So that's a positive. Same with Bruno. I think Bruno's underrated for the amount of pitch that he covers every single game. Then we've also got with defensive stability. Malik Chow's comfortable going into wide areas, being energetic. So when we do need cover for Dan Burn, because he doesn't have the recovery pace to get back, We've got that now with Malik Chow. We've got players like Anthony Gordon, Anthony Elanga, Jacob Murphy, Harvey Barnes, who are all full of energy. Now, I've also got a feeling that Nuno's going to try and compact the space in the middle of the pitch, because I feel like that's how he'll try and beat Newcastle United, by winning that midfield battle. Because if you can win the midfield battle, you've won 60% of the game. You're 60% more likely to win the game, in my opinion. So I've got a feeling you've got to stretch their defensive shape. So let's create overload in wide areas, especially if they play their fullbacks at the opposition side, because naturally, without that pivot and compact block in the middle of the pitch, West Ham struggle to recover their shape once they're pulled into wide areas. Now, if West Ham do decide to play their fullbacks on opposite sides, if I'm one of our wingers, I would be absolutely ecstatic. I'd be licking my lips, because that gives you the ultimate advantage. Wingers are meant to be and are very good manipulators with the ball and their bodies. That's how they beat players in one-on-one situations. And if I'm one of our wingers, I'd want the ball at every opportunity, and I would try and get at my man. This is what I want to see from whoever plays on the wing, whether it be Anthony Elanga, Anthony Gordon. I want to see them get on the ball and try and make things happen, because when you're playing against a player that is playing on the opposite side, their angles are all different. So their body orientation is in reverse, and they're not used to that. One of the best people at speaking about this is Stuart Pearce. If you speak to Stuart Pearce, he always used to say, I was terrible when I played right back, because my angles were all different. Football is built on angles. Whether you're with the ball, you need to open up angles, or you're defending, you need to close and open up angles that the winger can get through. But if you're playing on the opposite side, everything's in reverse, so it's different. This is why ex-footballers like Stuart Pearce are so complimentary of players like Tino Livramento, who can play on the both sides, because I don't think we realise how difficult it is, especially at this top level of football, when you're coming up against elite one-on-one dribblers. Doing it in Sunday League, that's okay. It's different, because your opposition 9 times out of 10 doesn't know how to beat you. But when you're playing at this elite level of football and they realise you're playing at the opposite side, they can open up angles that will manipulate you into thinking he's going one way, then he changes direction, goes the other way. That is extremely difficult to defend against. This is why Leeds scored 2 early goals when they targeted their fullback areas, because they had fullbacks playing at opposite sides. So I would absolutely try and move the ball early out wide, get Anthony Gordon in one-on-one situations. Look at him against Union Saint-Gilloise. He tore them a new one. I want to see that Anthony Gordon. And lastly, set pieces. West Ham have conceded the most goals from headers this season. They conceded 2 at home from set pieces against Chelsea, but also 2 at home from set pieces against Tottenham. So I want us to capitalise on defensive set pieces and offensive set pieces. We scored a good set piece goal from Fabian Shaw midweek. I want to see that in this game, because set pieces are so important. People laugh at Arsenal, right? But it's getting them through games. It's getting them points where they're not really clicking. Set piece are a massive part of football and always have been. If you can win off a set piece, I'll take that all day, every day, and twice on Sundays. Do you want to know what the most lovely feeling is going into this game? Squad depth. Very rarely have Newcastle United been able to rely on squad depth. So now that we've got squad depth, we've built profiles like Jacob Ramsey offering something to Joe Linton. So in different games, we can pick different profiles. But also, everybody seems to be thriving at the moment. We haven't had one poor performance from a player. After 3 consecutive wins, we managed to rest Bruno, rest Joe Linton, rest Anthony Gordon, rest Jacob Murphy, rest Trippier, already in preparation for this game. So confidence around the camp must be sky high. One thing I will say, and I've repeated it again, let's not get complacent. We had a good professional performance against Tottenham. That's what we need to do against West Ham. Let's have a composed professional performance. Go there, get 3 points, bring it back Newcastle United. Everybody's happy. But the beauty about having this squad depth is rotation will be key this season, but the importance of players pushing each other to their limits. Harvey Barnes performing well, so he's eager and pushing to start. Jacob Ramsey doing the same. He's eager and pushing to start. Lewis Miley's doing the same. He's eager to push and to start. Sven Botman and Malik Chow could easily start, but I wouldn't be upset if Fabian Schär started. So when you've got competition and a good standard for places, it keeps the energy high in the camp, keeps everybody training and working hard, keeps everybody wanting to perform every game so they don't lose a place, and it just keeps that hunger to succeed. What every single manager wants is a selection headache. When you've got a selection headache, you know you've got a good squad. But just think midweek, we brought Sven Botman out the side, brought in Fabian Schär, who actually did well. He played well. So we've got that competition of places. So for Eddie Howe going into this game, it's actually quite difficult to pick a starting 11, but I'm going to try and do it for you. Now, this is what I think Eddie Howe will go with. But I've made one change in there that I want to see, and that is Jacob Ramsey starting. Not because he's better than Joe Linton, but I think his profile will be better suited to this game. West Ham lack legs in the middle of the park. They lack athleticism. If you can have 3 players that can get around the pitch, be sharp, play with dynamism and athleticism, you're going to cause West Ham problems. So I think Nick Pope will come back into goal, and I think it's incredibly unlucky on Aaron Ramsdale because he made some terrific saves against Tottenham. And I do think we'll see Aaron Ramsdale start against Athletic Club in the Champions League midweek, but I do think Nick Pope will come back in. Kieran Trippier right back because he's all rested up. Now, personally, I would go with Malik Chow and Sven Botman because Sven Botman didn't play midweek, so he's 100% fit. And then, obviously, Dan Burn at left back, but obviously, Lewis Hall is close to a return. Then the midfield 3, I would go with Bruno, Sandro Tonali, and Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey because he's the one that can support Nick Valdemada in possession, especially when you've got a player like Dan Burn at left back. You need somebody doing the running. I often speak about when you've got profiles, you need to compromise for that profile. So when you've got a profile like Nick Valdemada, somebody needs to do the running for him. Somebody needs to be a threat in behind. Somebody needs to stretch the pitch, but you also need to support him in possession. So when you've got somebody like Jacob Ramsey who likes to get forward, play between the lines, that just complements Nick Valdemada because it gives him options in possession, but it also means Anthony Gordon doesn't have to do that. When you don't have a dynamic left back, you need Anthony Gordon running in behind. So you could have Anthony Gordon stretching the pitch. That'll create space centrally for Nick Valdemada getting the ball, Jacob Ramsey getting the ball, and they can be threatening in that final third, but you've also got that pass option to Anthony Gordon. So this is what I would be looking at building if I'm Eddie Howe. But I do believe Eddie Howe is going to a more possession-based. When you think of profiles like Nick Valdemada, Malik Chow, Aaron Ramsdale, Jacob Ramsey, who are all super comfortable in possession, I do start to feel like Eddie Howe is slowly going towards more controlling games. Then I would also play Anthony Gordon on the left, Nick Valdemada up front. And when you've got Nick Valdemada up front, 6 goals in 11 appearances so far. Let's make it 7 goals in 12. But look, I do think it's going to be a difficult game. West Ham are no pushovers. They've got some quality in their side. Players like Jaron Bourne can punish you at any moment. He's a scorer of all types of goals. So we need to be on it just as much as we were if we're playing the top of the league team. But my prediction, I'm going to go West Ham 0, Newcastle United 2. But I want to hear your prediction. Do you agree with my starting 11? If there's any West Ham fans that do watch this video, let me know in the comments what I've said about the team, the club. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't really know. You obviously know more than me, but that's just my feelings. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, how are we the lads?